Commander Jace stood in front of the fuel control panel, eyes locked on the numbers that kept dropping. Every day, the fuel levels were going down, but the ship wasn't going anywhere. It didn't make sense. The Silver Drake was floating quietly, in deep space, far from planets, far from stations. It was a peaceful mission, just a routine cargo run. There were no signs of damage, no alerts, and no accidents. But the numbers didn't lie. Fuel was disappearing. Jace had checked every system twice, then 3 times. He crawled under the engine bay, opened panels, even replaced the sensors. Nothing helped. The readings kept falling. It was like the fuel was being pulled away by something invisible. At first, the crew didn't notice. A few liters gone each day wasn't strange. But after 5 days, it became a problem. More than 30% of the fuel was just ... gone. Jace didn't want to panic the crew, so he worked in secret. He stayed up late, watched every camera, and marked every pipe on his tablet. Still, the system showed nothing wrong. One night, Jace sat in the control room alone. He drank cold coffee and stared at the blinking lights. The ship was quiet, too quiet. No noise, no talking, just the soft hum of power. Suddenly, a small red light blinked on the screen. Fuel pressure drop. He whispered. It was the storage bay again, the same place, same time. Jace stood quickly, grabbed his jacket, and walked out. His boots made soft sounds on the metal floor as he moved through the hallway. When he reached the fuel bay, the door was slightly open. That was strange. He was sure he had locked it. He stepped inside. Slowly, the room was cold, and the air smelled like chemicals. Rows of silver tanks lined the walls. Nothing seemed out of place at first. Then he heard it. A quiet sound, like someone sipping through a straw. He froze. It was coming from behind one of the tanks. Very slowly, he leaned to the side. He couldn't believe what he saw. There, sitting on the floor behind a fuel tank, was a girl. But not just any girl, an alien. She was small, maybe the size of a teenager, with grey-blue skin that glowed softly in the dark. Her long silver hair fell across her back, and her hands were placed carefully on the metal tank. Her lips were touching a small pipe, and she was drinking. Not water, not juice. She was drinking the fuel. Jace didn't know what to do. He didn't move. He just watched. The girl seemed calm, like she didn't even know he was there. Her eyes were closed. Her face looked peaceful, as if the strange liquid gave her comfort. After a few seconds, she opened her eyes and saw him. They stared at each other in silence. She didn't scream. She didn't run. Instead, she stood up slowly and backed away. Her silver hair moved like silk in the air. Then, without a word, she turned and ran into the shadows of the storage room. Jace followed, but when he turned the corner, she was gone. He checked behind crates, under shelves, and even inside empty tanks. Nothing. It was like she disappeared. Into the walls, he returned to the fuel tank where she had been. The pipe was still wet. There was a strange glow on the metal surface. He touched it. It was warm. Something shiny caught his eye on the floor. It looked like a small tooth, smooth and glowing like the girl's skin. He picked it up. It was still warm too. When he held it in his hand, it gave a small pulse of light, like a heartbeat. He stood there, alone in the fuel room, holding the glowing tooth, staring at the empty space where she had been. Questions filled his mind. Who was she? How did she get on the ship? Why was she drinking the fuel? And most of all, what else was she doing here? Jace left the room without turning off the lights. He needed answers, but he didn't even know where to start. The ship's logs had no record of any unknown passenger. The crew didn't mention anyone strange. The sensors didn't show anything alive in the bay. Yet she was real. As he walked down the hallway, the glowing tooth still in his hand, he knew one thing for sure. This was no normal fuel leak, and the girl, she was no accident. Whatever was happening on the Silver Drake, it had just begun. Jace didn't sleep that night. He kept staring at the strange object in his hand, the small glowing tooth. It pulsed with soft light every few seconds, like it was alive. He placed it on the desk and watched as it gently vibrated, spinning slowly, on its own. The room was quiet, but Jace felt like the ship was whispering now. Every sound seemed louder. Every shadow seemed deeper. He replayed the memory again and again. The girl had looked directly at him, not scared, not angry, just calm, peaceful. But why would someone drink ship fuel? And how did she survive it? The liquid was dangerous, even for machines. It wasn't something living creatures should touch, let alone drink. The ship's AI didn't detect anything unusual. No changes in temperature, no movements, no intruders. It was like she didn't exist on the system. But Jace knew what he saw. Her soft glowing skin, her strange silver eyes, the way she had vanished, almost like smoke. And now this tooth, whatever it was, glowed, like it carried a piece of her. He took it to the medical bay. The doctor on board, a soft-spoken man named Keel, examined it carefully. He ran scans, tests, even used a low-energy microscope. After a long pause, he looked up at Jace. This ... is not from any species I know, Keel said slowly. It's not even built like a tooth. It's more like a storage cell, maybe a kind of natural battery. A battery? Jace asked, surprised. Yes, it stores energy, a lot of it. But it's not mechanical. It's organic. It's ... alive. Jace left the medical bay with more questions than answers. He placed the strange object back in a sealed container in his room. Then he returned to the storage bay where it had all started. This time, he didn't go to check the fuel levels. He just waited. Hours passed. No one came. No sounds. But Jace had learned patience from years in deep space. So he waited longer. Then, just as his eyes were starting to close, he heard the softest sound behind him, like bare feet on the cold floor. He didn't move. The air felt colder suddenly, like someone had opened a window to the stars. A soft glow reflected off the wall in front of him. She was there. He slowly turned his head and saw her standing in the corner. The same girl, same silver hair, same glowing eyes. Her skin shimmered faintly, like it caught the light from another world. She didn't look afraid. She didn't speak. She just looked at him, watching carefully. Jace raised his hands slowly, palms open. I'm not here to hurt you, he said in a quiet voice. She tilted her head, studying him. You drank the fuel, he said, still calm. Why? There was silence. Then, very slowly, she stepped forward. Her bare feet made no sound on the floor. She moved with grace, like she wasn't touching the ground at all. She came closer, but kept a distance between them. She looked at the pipe, then at Jace. Thirst, she said. Her voice was soft, not robotic, not perfect, like someone learning to speak for the first time. She touched her throat lightly, as if trying to explain more. Water ... not safe, she added. Your air ... dry. Fuel ... warm. Fuel ... safe. Jace tried to understand. She wasn't just drinking for power, she needed it. It was part of her survival. Are you ... hiding here? He asked. She didn't answer. Her eyes dropped to the floor. Then she pointed at the door. Her lips moved, but the words were not clear. A faint sound escaped. Jace leaned in. Find me, she whispered. Before he could ask more, she turned and moved quickly toward the back of the room. There was a vent panel on the wall, small, almost too small for a person, but she slipped inside like water through a crack. Then she was gone. Jace walked slowly to the vent. He knelt down and looked inside. There was a faint trail of glowing dust leading deeper into the ship's maintenance tunnels. He knew he couldn't follow her, not yet, but she wanted him to. She had left him a clue. Back in his room, he opened the sealed container. The small glowing cell was still pulsing, but something had changed. Now, it blinked slowly, almost in rhythm with the trail she left behind. She wasn't just hiding. She wanted to be found. Jace didn't know who she was, where she came from, or why she had chosen his ship. But now he knew this was not about fuel. It was something bigger. And she had just started to trust him. Jace spent the next day quietly reviewing every part of the ship's records. He didn't tell the crew what had happened. Not yet. He wanted to be sure. Something deep inside told him this wasn't just a random stowaway or some strange passenger hiding for fun. No, this was different. This girl, this being was unlike anything he had seen. He checked every security feed, every hallway, every supply room, every vent panel. But somehow, the girl never showed up on the recordings, not even in the storage bay, where he had clearly seen her with his own eyes. It was as if the cameras couldn't see her, or maybe she didn't want to be seen. That made him pause. He rewound the footage again, this time slowing it down frame by frame. He noticed something strange. During the time when she should have been there, the footage blinked for a single second, just one frame of static, then normal again. It was short enough to go unnoticed. The same glitch happened the night before in another section of the ship. He pulled up the data logs for that area. The The sensors showed a sudden drop in temperature, very slight, but followed by a rise in background radiation. Nothing dangerous, but unusual. He leaned back in his chair. A soft hum filled the control room. The ship moved gently through empty space, silent and calm, while his mind raced with possibilities. Then a message came from the crew's science officer, Mara. "Commander," she said, "overcomes. There's something you should see in Lab 3. Jace walked to the lab, trying not to look too serious. Mara was already there, standing next to a screen filled with odd biological readings. "This came from the sample you sent yesterday," she said. "That tooth-like object." He nodded. "What did you find?" "It's not just organic, it's adaptive. The structure of it changes slightly with temperature and energy. It absorbs small amounts of light, heat, even motion. And when it's not absorbing, it stores. Think of it like a living power cell." Jace watched the screen. The object's internal layers pulsed softly, like waves in water. "I've never seen anything like this," Mara continued. "And one more thing. It was sending out low-frequency pulses, almost like a signal." He looked at her. "Too. Where?" She shook her head. "That's what we don't know yet. But it's regular, like a heartbeat." Jace left the lab quietly, holding that thought in his mind. A signal. If she was sending something, maybe someone was listening. Back in his quarters, he tried a new approach. He didn't go out searching this time. He stayed in his room and placed the glowing cell on the table. Then he turned off the lights and waited. Hours passed. The stars outside the window remained still. The engine hummed gently below. And then, like before, the air changed. There was no sound, no footsteps, just a shift in feeling. Like the room had another breath in it. She was there again. She didn't come in through the door. She was simply there, in the corner, watching. Jace stayed still. "I know you're trying to hide," he said gently. "I don't want to stop you. I just want to understand." She stepped forward. Her eyes glowed softly, like two stars in the dark. She looked at the energy cell on the table and tilted her head. "It's part of you?" he asked. She nodded once. "I saw the signal," he added. Her expression changed slightly. Not fear, but worry. "You're not alone, are you?" he asked. "Someone's looking for you." She slowly lowered herself to the floor, sitting cross-legged. Her fingers touched the edge of the table, and she placed her hand near the glowing cell. "I not send signal," she said slowly. "It send on its own. Too loud, too loud." Jace repeated. She nodded. "They hear it." His heart beat faster. "Who's they?" She looked out the window at the stars. Her voice was quiet. "Hunters." Jace didn't speak. He watched as she gently touched the cell, and it dimmed, the pulsing slowing down. Her skin shimmered again, just slightly. She seemed tired, like holding back the signal took effort. "They find me if light stays," she said. "You want to stop it." Jace understood. "You're hiding from them." She nodded again. "This place ... quiet, safe, but only for little time." Jace didn't press her. She was sharing something important in her own way. He knew now that this wasn't just about fuel. The girl had run from something bigger, and the more he learned, the more he understood. This wasn't only her fight. Something unknown was out there, and it was listening, and now, so was he. Jace sat alone in the observation deck, eyes fixed on the stars, but his thoughts were far from peaceful. The girl's words kept echoing in his head. "They hear it. Hunters." It was a strange name, cold and sharp, but what worried him more was the fear in her eyes when she said it. A fear that didn't belong to someone young or weak, but someone who had seen too much, someone who had been running for a long time. He opened a new security log and began to scan deeper than before. He wasn't looking for leaks now. He was looking for patterns, strange signals, sensor disruptions, even shifts in crew behavior. He didn't have to look far. That same signal the girl warned him about, low frequency, heartbeat like pulse, still active, faint, but present. It came and went every few hours, like it was trying to stay unnoticed. He didn't tell the rest of the crew yet. The Silver Drake wasn't a military ship. They weren't trained for something unknown. They delivered supplies, moved between spaceports, and sometimes carried science teams, but none of them had ever dealt with hidden visitors, glowing energy cells, or alien fugitives. He kept things quiet, but others were starting to notice something strange. Lieutenant Brent, who worked maintenance, mentioned hearing footsteps in the lower engine bay, but no one was there. Mara, the science officer, found her files on the energy sample slightly altered, like someone or something had touched them, and the youngest crew member, Lynn, said she saw a glowing figure near the vents during her shift. Jace acted calm, but inside, he knew it wouldn't be long before the rest of the crew demanded answers. He needed to talk to her again, not just in short words or shadows but face to face. He returned to his room that night and left the energy cell on the desk again. This time, he left a small recording device beside it. Not to spy but to try. A new kind of message. He pressed the record button and leaned close. "If you hear this," he said softly, "I want to help you, but I need to understand more. Who are you? Who are they? Why are they hunting you? You don't have to be alone anymore." Then he left the room. An hour passed. 2. When he returned, the room looked untouched, but the device had been moved slightly. He pressed play. At first, there was nothing. Then came a soft voice, hers. "I'm not from place, you know. My name not easy to speak, but you can call me ... Ori." There was a pause. Then she continued, slowly and carefully. "Where I come from, we are born with energy inside. We carry light, warmth. Our bodies turn energy to life. We do not eat like you. We drink heat, drink power. Ships like this, they feed us, but they also use us." Another pause. The voice was quieter now. "They take us, the hunters. They see us as tools, not people. They use our bodies to power their cities, their machines. They keep us in boxes. Some of us escape." Her voice trembled slightly. "I ran. I found quiet ships, empty space. I sleep where no one sees. But the cell ... still calls. It wants to go home. It's loud." Jace listened in silence. At the end, her voice softened one last time. "You are the first who listens. I do not want to run forever." Jace sat back, the message still ringing in his ears. Ori. That was her name, and now he knew the truth, at least a part of it. She wasn't stealing fuel. She wasn't hiding for fun. She was surviving, running from a kind of prison he could barely imagine. The signal she left behind wasn't just dangerous. It was calling her enemies, and if they were close enough to hear it, they were close enough to come. Asterisk. The stars outside the ship looked the same, still and beautiful, but inside the silver drake, a quiet tension had started to grow. Jace stood in the command center early that morning, staring at a new warning on the screen. A signal foreign and untagged was approaching. No name, no ID, no reply. Just a slow, steady drift toward their location. It didn't match any known vessel. It wasn't one of theirs, and it wasn't broadcasting for help. It was just watching. He zoomed in on the object. Still too far to get details, but close enough that the ship's scanners had picked up its shape. It was large, wider than their own ship, but moved almost silently. No visible engines, no lights, just drifting through space like a shadow. He didn't say anything to the crew yet. Only Mara knew. She had seen the reading too, and she looked just as concerned as he felt. "That's not a mistake," she whispered. "That ship ... it's waiting." Jace nodded. "Or searching." They both knew who or what it might be looking for. Later that day, Ori appeared again. This time, she came into his room while he was awake. She didn't speak right away. She simply sat across from him, hands resting in her lap, her silver eyes watching the floor. He didn't speak either, not at first. There was something fragile in the air, a silence that didn't want to be broken too quickly. Finally, she looked up. "They are near." Jace nodded slowly. "I think they've already found us." She lowered her head. "I'm sorry. I tried to stop it." "I know," he said. "This isn't your fault." Ori stood and walked to the window. The stars reflected on her skin like soft candlelight. Her glow was dimmer than before. She looked tired. "They followed the signal. Once they hear it, they do not stop." Jace walked beside her. "Is there any way to block it?" She paused. "Only if I change the core." He frowned slightly. "What do you mean?" She looked at him, unsure how to explain. Then she placed her hand on his chest, just over his heart. "Energy inside. It speaks. I can quiet it, but ... it costs light." Jace understood one thing: whatever she had to do would take strength from her. Maybe more than she could give. "We'll find another way," he said. But Ori shook her head slowly. "They will come. They always do." Later that evening, the ship received a signal from the unknown object. It was short and cold. "Return the asset." The crew gathered in the main hall, most of them confused, some already worried. What does that even mean? Lynn asked. Asset. Jace didn't answer right away. He looked around at the faces of people who had no idea what kind of secret had been hidden aboard their ship for days. And now that secret was calling danger straight to them. He knew he had to tell them. Not all the details, but enough. There's someone aboard, he said calmly. She's not dangerous. She's hiding, and someone out there wants her back. Voices rose quickly, confused questions, worried looks. Why not just hand her over? Bryn asked. Jace looked at him, voice steady. Because she's not cargo, she's a person. Ori appeared at the edge of the room. She stood silently, watching them. Her presence made the room fall quiet. Mara stepped forward and gently said, "She's been with us for days. If she wanted to cause harm, she would have already." Ori's eyes moved from face to face. Then she said quietly, "I did not ask to be here. I only wanted to rest. But I will go if it keeps you safe." Jace took a step forward. "No, we don't leave people behind, not like this." The crew didn't respond, not with words, but slowly, one by one, they nodded. Even Bren, who had spoken out before, looked down and stayed silent. The decision was made. They wouldn't give her up, not without understanding more. And outside, in the dark of space, the silent ship waited, still watching, still listening. But now, the Silver Drake was no longer hiding. It was preparing. The ship was quiet, but it wasn't peaceful. Everyone felt it, the weight of something coming closer. The outside vessel hadn't moved. It remained in the same spot, floating like a shadow just beyond the scanner's edge. But its presence pressed on them like a heavy fog. The crew of the Silver Drake carried on with their duties, but their eyes moved faster, and their steps had lost the calm rhythm of normal days. Jay spent hours in the control center, reviewing every system. If anything happened, they would need to act quickly. The ship wasn't built for defense. It had no weapons, no shields, strong enough to protect against an unknown threat. Their only real option was escape, but even that came with risks. The engines weren't ready for a full jump, and the fuel was still low. Ori remained quiet for most of the day. She stayed in a small observation room near the back of the ship, far from the crew. She didn't ask for anything. She just stared at the stars with tired eyes, her glow dimmer than ever. She was using her energy to keep the signal low, and Jace could see it was draining her. He visited her again, this time with no questions. He brought her a warm blanket, a few energy packs, and some water. She took them gently, but her hands were slower now. "I can hold it," she said softly, "but not for long." Jace sat beside her, the stars shining faintly on the floor. "There has to be another way," he said. "Something we're not seeing." Ori looked at him. "You are kind. You think in circles, not in lines. But some things only end in one place." He didn't answer. He didn't know how. Later that night, the ship's core began to flicker. The lights dimmed for a moment, just for a second, and then returned. But the core room temperature shifted. The engineers noticed it first, a small rise in internal pressure, and then a strange signature inside the energy flow. Jace rushed down to the engine bay. When he entered the core room, he stopped. Ori was already there. She stood in front of the glowing core, her hands gently raised toward the stream of light moving through the pipes. Her skin shimmered, but not like before. Now it looked stretched, like her glow was fighting to stay alive. "I can quiet the core," she said without turning. "They hear it now. The engine's light, it reaches them. If I match it, if I take it into me, I can hide you." Jace stepped forward. "But it's too much. That's the ship's main power. It will hurt you." She turned to face him slowly. Her expression was calm, but her eyes told the truth. Was afraid, not of pain, but of what might come next. "I was made for energy," she said. "That's what they wanted. But I choose this now. Not for them, for me." Jace didn't move. He felt a deep pull in his chest, something between respect and worry. "What happens if you can't hold it?" he asked. Ori paused. "Then the core returns to normal, and they will hear." Jace took a deep breath. The crew was watching from the other side of the glass. No one spoke. No one stopped her. But everyone felt at that quiet moment, when something important was about to happen. Ori turned back to the core. She raised both hands, and the engine light shifted. The humming changed pitch, growing softer, more balanced. The ship's systems blinked once, then held steady. Her glow brightened for a moment, then turned deep and quiet, like fire inside water. She stood still, breathing slowly. The signal stopped. Outside, the strange vessel paused. The sensors showed a delay in its motion. For the first time since it had arrived, it seemed unsure. No signal to chase, no path to follow. Inside the Silver Drake, the crew watched the screen. Ori slowly stepped back from the core. Her body wavered slightly, but she stayed on her feet. "They don't hear anymore," she whispered. Jace moved toward her and caught her gently by the shoulders as she leaned against the wall. "You did it," he said. Ori nodded, her eyes closing just for a second. "But they are still waiting," she said quietly. "They don't leave, not until they're sure." Jace looked at the screen. The foreign ship hadn't moved. It was watching, thinking, measuring the silence. He knew what they were thinking too. The hunt wasn't over yet. Not until someone made the final move.